Hello and welcome to the session on multiple choice questions. In the last unit, we have seen that there are 4 different formats of objective type items, namely the multiple choice, true or false, matching and completion type formats. Of these 4, multiple choice questions are the most commonly used type in our examination system. They are recognition type, also known as select type, where questions students are asked to choose the correct or the best answer from among a number of given options. There are several reasons why this format is a popular choice of examiners, especially in formal testing situations. Firstly, the questions can be scored without any subjective judgment. The answers given by a student is either right or wrong. There are no half right or half wrong answers, which make the process of scoring independent of personal judgments, prejudices and biases. Secondly, the responses can be analyzed in detail in such a way that even wrong responses provide teachers with useful information regarding the skills, abilities, disabilities and learning gaps of students. Thirdly, the responses of students can be scored using computers. Some of the well-known tests in India such as GATE and JEE are conducted in this format. Many a time, people wrongly assume that multiple choice questions are not suitable to assess the higher order learning skills and abilities of students and can be used only to test trivial factual details. However, Robert Abel and David Frisby in their famous book titled Principles of Educational Measurement point out that carefully constructed multiple choice questions can be used to measure most of the educational outcomes, including some of the higher order learning skills. While there is no denying the fact that essay questions are best suited for measuring certain cognitive skills, several important educational outcomes such as knowledge, understanding, judgment, ability to solve problems, etc., can be measured to a considerable extent using multiple choice questions. Multiple choice questions can be used within the classroom to assess the academic progress of students and to identify their aptitudes as well as learning gaps. This unit will familiarize you with some of the most important aspects of multiple choice questions, hereafter referred to as MCQ. By the end of this unit, you will be able to define what is an MCQ, identify the main components of an MCQ, state the purpose of each component in an MCQ, learn how to construct good MCQs, differentiate between well constructed and poorly constructed MCQs, comprehend their relative advantages and limitations in comparison with other types of test items. Components of a multiple choice question. An MCQ has 2 important components, namely the stem and the alternatives. The alternatives consist of a key response and distractors. Let us look at each of these components in some detail. Stem. The stem is the beginning part of an MCQ. It presents the question in the form of an interrogative sentence or an incomplete sentence. Alternatives. The second component of an MCQ is the alternatives. They are also called options or choices. Alternatives typically consist of 4 or 5 responses from which the student is expected to choose the correct response. Keyed response. Of the 4 or 5 alternatives given in an MCQ, one will be the correct response. This is called the keyed response or key. Distractors. All responses in the alternatives except the key are wrong answers. They are given to distract the students who have not achieved the specific learning outcome that is being tested through the question. Therefore, they are called distractors. Let us take an example to understand these components in a clearer way. Imagine that an English teacher wants to construct an MCQ to find out whether his or her students have understood the concept and function of adjectives. The question can be formed either as an interrogative sentence or an incomplete sentence. What is the name given to a word qualifies a noun? Answers are adjective, verb, adverb and preposition. In this example, the interrogative sentence, what is the name given to a word that qualifies a noun, is called the stem. Here 4 options are given from which the students are to select the correct answer. These 4 options, that is adjective, verb, adverb and preposition, are called alternatives. Of these 4 alternatives, adjective is the right answer. Hence, it is called the keyed response or the key. The other options, that is verb, adverb and preposition, are incorrect answers provided to distract students. So, they are called distractors. In this example, the stem is presented in the form of an interrogative sentence. It can also be presented in the form of an incomplete sentence. Guidelines for writing multiple choice questions. Compared to essay questions, MCQs are difficult to construct. Proper care should be taken when constructing them so that they measure what they intend to measure. Moreover, the general applicability and superior qualities of an MCQ item can be realized through its proper construction. The construction of an MCQ involves major 3 steps. They are clear statement of the problem, removal of irrelevant clues to the answer and identification of distractors. Education experts agree that certain rules and guidelines should be followed when constructing an MCQ. Here are some of the most important rules you should remember. Rule 1. The stem of the question should be meaningful by itself. Moreover, it should present a definite problem in clear terms. Sometimes teachers construct MCQs in such a way that the stem does not contain any meaning by itself, but becomes meaningful only after the alternatives are read. However, if we need to assess higher order learning skills and specific learning outcomes, a definite problem should be presented in the stem. Thus, a good MCQ presents a clear problem in the stem which is meaningful without the alternatives. Rule 2. The stem should include as much of the item as possible, but it should not contain any irrelevant material. Removal of irrelevant materials contributes to the conciseness of the problem and will reduce the reading time. However, this rule is not applicable to certain types of questions. For example, when composing a question to test the problem solving abilities of students, teachers may include irrelevant information in the stem. This is to check whether students have the ability to identify information that is relevant to solving the problem. Rule 3. Negatively stated stems should be used only if it is absolutely required to measure certain significant learning outcomes. Otherwise, a negatively stated question will only confuse students and may prevent even the knowledgeable students from identifying the correct answer. If a question can be stated in positive terms and the use of negatives is not really required, it is better to use positive statements. However, if negatives are used in a question, it should be made obvious either by highlighting or underlining the negatives. Rule 4. Grammatical consistency should be maintained in all the alternatives. This not only perpetuates proper grammar usage, but helps to remove irrelevant clues. Consistency should be maintained in the use of verb, tenses, definite and indefinite articles and other common aspects of grammar. Rule 5. Teachers should take proper care to avoid any kind of stem clues in the question. A stem clue occurs when both the stem and the alternatives contain similar or identical items or words which may give clues to the students about the correct answer. In other words, any kind of verbal or grammatical association between the stem and the correct answer should be avoided. Rule 6. The alternatives of an MCQ should contain only one correct answer. The major disadvantage of giving more than one correct answer is that it makes scoring more difficult. It is also important that the right answer is agreed on by the experts in the subject area. It is better to avoid controversial points regarding which there is no consensus among the experts. Rule 7. The phrasing and presentation of the question should be based on what the question intends to measure. If the purpose of the question is to measure the ability to recall factual details, then a simple question will serve that purpose. However, if the question intends to measure a student's understanding of a concept, then skillful phrasing with novelty is required. Similarly, in questions that intend to measure a student's ability to apply concepts, careful choice of appropriate situations is needed. The situation should be novel and should not be a replica of the situations already mentioned in the textbook. But situations which are far removed from the ones explained in the class or used in the text should be avoided. For example, in order to measure a 10th grade student's ability to apply the law of supply and demand, simple and real life situations can be used, but asking him or her to apply this law to some complex finance management situation is definitely unfair by any standards. It is always better to choose real life situations which students are familiar within their day-to-day lives. The STEM should be phrased in such a way that the application or interpretation required in the situation is clear and unambiguous. Rule 8. The position of the correct answer should vary randomly from item to item. Do not follow any identifiable pattern when placing the correct answer among distractors. Some teacher may place the correct answer in the middle position more often than in the first or last positions, which might give irrelevant clues to alert students. However, in a standardized MCQ test, the correct answer should be placed in each alternative position approximately equal number of times. Rule 9. Special alternatives such as all of the above and none of the above should be either fully avoided or used sparingly. Such alternatives require that the students read all the options carefully. If all of the above alternatives is used inappropriately, some students may recognize the first option as the correct answer and mark it without reading the question any further. If none of the above option is used inappropriately, students may recognize the wrong answers without recognizing the right answers. Therefore, such special alternatives should be used only if required. They should be completely avoided when students are asked to pick the best or most suitable answer. Similarly, specific determinants such as never and always and vague qualifiers such as many, much, etc. should not be used unless required. Rule 10. In some questions, the keyed response might not be 100% correct answer, but it can only be the best or most appropriate answer. Use this type questions only when there is a general agreement among experts regarding what is best. If experts are divided in their opinion, it is best to phrase the question using the expert's name. For example, phrases like according to Sigmund Freud, what is the best method to, or in the opinion of Michael Foucault, which is the most important feature, etc. can be used in such cases. The sense in which the term best is used should be made clear in the STEM itself. Guidelines regarding the choice of distractors. The distractors of a question are equally important as the keyed response. So, teachers should be careful to use plausible distractors rather than random ones. The function of distractors, as we have seen, is to distract students from recognizing the right answer. Therefore, distractors should be constructed in such a way that a student who didn't achieve the learning outcome might select them, while students who achieved the learning outcome should be able to ignore them. When a student who has not achieved the learning outcome is tested, the distractors should appear to him or her as attractive as the correct answer. Alternatives which are not plausible don't serve as functional distractors, and therefore, they should be avoided as much as possible. Here are a few things to remember while choosing distractors. One of the best ways to increase the plausibility of distractors is their homogeneity. That is to say, all the distractors may appear plausible if they are homogeneous with regard to the subject area being measured. The learning experiences of students should be taken into account while choosing distractors. All the distractors presented in the question should be familiar to students. Plausible and educationally sound distractors can be presented by including common errors, possible misconceptions, errors in reasoning, errors due to carelessness, etc. For example, if students are expected to find the weight of an object in milligram, provide the same answer in gram and kilogram as distractors. The distractors should be similar to the correct answer in sentence structure, phrasing, vocabulary and complexity of thought. They should also be grammatically consistent with this term. The aim of distractors, as already mentioned, is to distract students who have not achieved learning outcomes. Therefore, tricky answers that may mislead the knowledgeable students should be avoided. For example, distractors should not be formulated by adding not to the right answer. The distractors should be approximately of the same length as the correct answer. In other words, the length of the alternatives should not give clues to students about the correct answer. Maintaining uniform length for all alternatives will help to avoid biased cueing. For example, sometimes the length of the correct answer is likely to be more compared to distractors, primarily because we tend to qualify the correct answer to make it more accurate. This may become an easy clue for a student. We have already seen that any kind of verbal association between the stem and the correct answer should be avoided. However, this rule can be broken when choosing distractors. Including distractors that are verbally associated with the stem is one way to mislead students and check whether they have really understood the subject in question or not. Other important points to remember: the language used to construct MCQs should be simple, clear and unambiguous. It is better to use active voice than passive voice, especially for lower grade students. Also, the vocabulary used in the question should be consistent with the level of understanding of students. In an MCQ test, be careful not to provide the right answer of one question in another question. Questions should be kept independent of one another. When developing MCQs, sentences from textbooks should not be reproduced verbatim. Some students might have memorized portions from the textbook. So, using exact sentences from the textbook makes it easier for them to guess the right answer. Use letters such as A, B, C, D, etc. to list out the alternatives rather than numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. When the answers are also numerical, numbered questions may confuse students. Advantages and limitations of multiple choice questions. In the last unit, we have looked at the advantages and limitations of objective questions in general. Most of the points discussed in that unit are applicable to MCQs too. For instance, MCQs have high content validity and objectivity. They eliminate the possibility of bluffing and are easy to score. The scores obtained from MCQs are not influenced by factors such as language skills and grammatical abilities. We have already looked at all these points, so we won't dwell on them again. However, there are certain advantages and limitations unique to MCQs. Let us take a look at some of them. Advantages. The greatest advantage of MCQs is their versatility. A wide variety of learning outcomes can be measured using this type. They can be used to measure the reasoning skills of students as well as their ability to make inferences, solve problems, exercise judgment and demonstrate knowledge of facts. The scores obtained from MCQs can be analyzed to yield a variety of statistics. Patterns of incorrect responses provide diagnostic information to teachers regarding the learning of individual students or groups of students. Such information can be helpful to improve the quality and methods of instruction. The difficulty levels of an MCQ item can be increased or decreased easily by increasing or reducing the degree of similarity among the alternatives. MCQs are more amenable to item analysis and hence their quality can be increased using difficulty index and discrimination index. Compared to true or false questions, the possibility of guesswork is reduced in MCQs. However, the element of guessing cannot be completely checked when MCQs are used. In large scale standardized tests, negative marking is used to discourage guesswork, but in a classroom test, especially if MCQs are used in combination with other types of questions, negative marking system cannot be used effectively. Limitations: the performance of students in an MCQ test might be influenced by factors which are not directly related to their knowledge in the subject matter. Test wise, students may use context clues to identify the correct answer. The reading ability and deductive reasoning skills of students may also influence their performance. Sometimes students may have some knowledge on the subject being tested. In essay and short answer questions, students may get partial credit if they demonstrate their partial understanding, but in an MCQ test, this partial knowledge does not receive any credit. Certain learning outcomes require students to demonstrate their ability to organize and present ideas. Such outcomes cannot be effectively tested through an MCQ. Moreover, the innovative, original and creative approaches of students cannot be accessed through this type. Similarly, some forms of MCQs might be inappropriate for young children. Multiple choice formats should not be used to assess a learning outcome which can be better assessed through another format. For instance, if a problem has only two possible responses, a true or false format is more suitable. Likewise, sometimes there might be enough homogeneous items, but only a few plausible distractors for each of them. In such situations, matching items can be used instead of MCQs. The rule of the thumb is to use an item that best measures a learning outcome. Let me summarize the session. This unit deals with the meaning, definition, components, advantages, limitations and construction of multiple choice questions. A multiple choice question belongs to the recognition type where students are to select the correct answer from a set of responses. The problem or question is presented in the form of an interrogative or incomplete sentence, which is called the stem. The responses given are called alternatives, of which one is the correct answer or key response and others are distractors. Multiple choice questions, if constructed well, can be used to measure higher order learning skills to a great extent. The construction of the question should be done in accordance with a set of guidelines or rules. The stem of the question should be meaningful by itself and devoid of irrelevant material. Any irrelevant clue that might help students to guess the correct answer should be avoided. Moreover, all the distractors should be plausible so that they look as attractive as the key to students who have not achieved learning outcomes. Negatives, confusing information, grammatical inconsistencies and verbal associations between the stem and the correct answer should be avoided. The major advantage of multiple choice questions is that they measure a variety of learning outcomes and are easy to score. But the construction of this type of questions is difficult and time consuming, and the possibility of guessing cannot be completely eliminated. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. What are MCQs popularly used in formal testing? What are the major components of an MCQ? What are the main points to consider when providing problem situations in an MCQ to assess the ability of students to apply concepts? Why should we make the distractors as attractive as the keyed response. Mention any 3 major disadvantages of MCQs. Why should the distractors and the keyed response be approximately of the same length? Hope that you may go through the reference books listed here. Measurement and Statistics for Teachers, written by Blackcomb, M.V. and published by Routledge, New York in the year 2009. Essentials of Educational Measurement, written by Abel R.L. and Frisby D.A. and published by Prentice Hall, New Jersey in the year 1986. Developing and Validating Multiple Choice Test Items, written by Haladina, T.M. and published by Lawrence Earlbaum Associates, New Jersey in the year 2004. Measurement and Assessment in Teaching, written by Lynn R.L. and Miller D.M. and published by Pearson Education India, New Delhi in 2008. Educational Technology, Techniques of Test and Evaluation, written by Singh Y.K., Sharma T.K. and Ubadhyaya B. and published by APH Publishing, New Delhi in the year 2009. Thank you for watching this program. We can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.